Hey friends! We're starting a little bit later than usual today, so I'm happy to see you. Hi, Yes Queen. Hi, Soat. Oh, Mimi just showed up. She's joining in. Oh, hi! I appreciate all the balloons. I don't know what they mean. I'm pretty sure you were both here when Kaftas popped in last time, because Kaftas is my partner who I talk about a lot. I'm also pretty sure his username is supposed to be Cuffsters, but I think he missed the R. Not to judge. I seem to have put my chat window in a weird spot. Let me see, can I move that? No, it's in the right spot. It's just really low because I tried to add a cup. Here, cup can go there. Cool. Look at me. Oh, okay. Me. She went to the vet yesterday, so she feels icky and she wants a lot of attention, which isn't different for her, but now she has an excuse. All right. Yeah, I know. It was just for her shots. She's okay. It just made her stressed out. Okay? It just made you stressed. Yeah, so I see we got a few more people. Hello, welcome everyone. We haven't just quite started reading yet. I'm just sort of letting us get relaxed, letting everybody filter in. Just wanted you all to know she was there, like you didn't already. Oh yeah, well she wants to be the star. And I'd gladly let her a lot of the time, but so yeah, we are, as I mentioned in some of my posts, but I can't remember all of them, we are basically at the halfway point of the book right now, which is very exciting. I think, yeah, the percentage marker on my thing says we're at 49%. So I don't know, this is both going quicker and at the same time not than I expected. But like, there are so many books in this series, we can keep going if people love it, or we can make a lot of choices. But yeah, this one's about halfway done. And it was just starting to get spicy, which is probably a good place for it to get spicy, so that's good. Oh, I keep messing with my nails because I just changed them before we started. feel uncomfortable because they're fresh. That's right, yes, Queen. Yes, I am enjoying having the routine as well. Okay, Trisha, hi. You've been watching Love is Blind Japan. Is it sweet? Oh, because I only saw clips from like the American one, and I felt like it was just a little bit, I don't know, but I've never watched it. It just wasn't feeling it. But if the Japanese one, if the Japanese one is sweet, then that's good. I've never really been a reality show person. It's really only been within like the last year or so that I've started to like try it out. Katricia says the beginning is always really nice because they're all falling in love with. Oh, yeah, that is nice. Yeah, I like the nice parts. The cringy parts are good in the right company. They're good to yell about with other people, but they're not so fun when I'm just hanging out by myself. They stress me out. Been watching Before the 90 Days with my partner because another live streamer that he likes is watching it with their community. So I watch with him with that other streamer person. And it's weird. It's I know we've all been yelling about it, a lot of us in the Page 7 Discord. It's like, excuse me. Whew. So it's fun like that, but it's it's not something that I think like I normally would have watched for myself, but that one's like really whew. I just always associate reality television with my grandmother because she watches a lot of it. And not that that's a bad thing or anything. It's just like, I just think of it as like, oh, that's grandma's TV. That and her soap operas. She really likes the Housewives. And she would talk about the Housewives like she knew them all the time. She also used to watch Sister Wives. Long time back. I don't know if she still does, but she used to. So maybe she'd like to jump in on the Sister Wives conversation with a lot of you, because I know a bunch of people are just starting. But that's not the cool grandma. That's the other grandma who's not a bad person or anything. She's just not the cool grandma. Okay, Patricia says she hasn't been into the Housewives, but Salt Lake City. Yeah, I've heard Salt Lake City is kind of the wild one. And I can imagine there's a lot of like Mormon stuff in that too. Yeah, it's the cult stuff. Yep. The cult stuff would be interesting. See what I mean? I like I said before, I just started doing my nails right before stream and I've already lost one. I'll have to fix that. I did like, they're all Valentine's Day. They're pink and sparkly because I'm going to be, and this will be, I can talk to you all about this a little bit off the top here. So tomorrow on Oh No, It's Jackie's channel, I'm going to be teaching the pasty making. I've sent all the information over and it got posted in the Discords. But it's got a list of materials. I don't believe the patterns have been shared yet. Yay, Katricia! Yes, yeah, go to the craft store, get some stuff. I popped into the dollar store yesterday, briefly, because like I already have a bunch of crafting stuff, but I got like specific stuff to make like a good basic heart-shaped pasty set with all of you. And yeah, so it's gonna be fun. And I am on purpose. It's snowing, Katricia. Yeah. I wouldn't want to go either. It's quite cold outside here in Toronto. It's not snowing, but it's cold. And I don't want to go anywhere. Plus, the convoy stuff is still messing with us down here. Like, they didn't make it into the city yesterday, which is what the police are concerned about, but they've still, like, closed all the roads and stuff. So, like, you can't cross from, I believe it's east to west right now, basically, in the city. Like, there's very few roads where you can cross right now because they're concerned about people coming in. Yeah, It's wild. Like, you can go on the subway and you can like walk. Like, that's not a problem. It's driving. You can't cross. So I've just been avoiding it. Like, I don't go anywhere anyway. I mentioned before that I'm kind of a hermit, but I just like especially am not now. Oh, Yas Queen says that you're broke. Yeah, please watch, and like it's all gonna be taped and everything, so you can, you know, use the tips and stuff for another time when you want to make them. Like, no pressure to make them at the exact time we're doing it. And yeah, just come hang out. And I'm glad that you've got stuff for your new room though, and that you've got a new room and that you're getting settled in. That's really good. So that's important and that's good. But yeah, before we start reading also, because I'm doing the pasty making workshop, I have a question for the people that are here. Maybe you can help me decide. So, I got this new set. The undergarment part just arrived. But the fluffy yellow thing I've had for a while, I just haven't been able to do anything with it yet. And I'm putting it together to work on like a springtime act. I've got like some pink satin I'm going to use to like line, because this is really sheer. And I'm going to stone it and stuff. But I was going to work on that today. And I was thinking, because this is long line enough and this is covered, that I might wear the top half with some like bottoms tomorrow, because it's Valentine's Day. It's kind of romantic. Or do we think that that is just like too much and really weird to do? I just wanted to do something sort of fluffy and fun. I don't want to like weird Jackie out or anything, but I just thought that would be cool. So anyway, that's there. Yeah, like it's in context. True, think about what Jackie wears. No shirts. Yeah, like I'm down with tits out. I just didn't want to be like, oh, I'm just wearing lingerie on your stream just cause. I'm just excited about it. Like, I've got like the satin to line the cups sitting down in my mailroom right now. I can go get it when we're done here and stitch it in. So that'll be what I'll work on. Plus, I'm going to make a couple of example pasties for tomorrow. Okay, Gadrisha, I appreciate your support. Okay, that makes me feel better, because my partner was a little concerned about it when I mentioned it. He was like, you sure? Like, is that not TOS? I was like, no, I'll be covered. Like, I'm not wearing the bottoms. I'm not going to like be full on in my underwear. Probably just like put on like little shorts or something. Be fine. But yeah, so yeah, and I'll also, I'm gonna make some basic pasties on stream, and I'm gonna show you some examples that I've got, some that I've made before. I got one set that I didn't make that I just have that are like really pretty and cool, and I just sort of want to show you the different types you can have. And then, so like I'm on purpose making very basic ones, so you guys don't like feel the need to go all out or anything, because it's just supposed to be fun and quick. And I shared with Lisa and Jackie, and I believe they shared the Instagram accounts as well in the post so far, of some inspo accounts, and specifically the one that's Menage a Trois. Is fantastic. She's like the top costumer in Canada for burlesque stuff, and specifically her Patreon, if you're interested in making things and like sewing and all of that for costuming, is like so worth it. Like genuinely so worth it. Like I've only been a member for a couple of months, and like I've learned so much and gotten so much value out of it. And she's so skilled. Like the costumes you would purchase from her are beautiful for one, but they're also like very valuable pieces, so they cost a fair bit. And she teaches you how to make it yourself on her Patreon. Like, it's amazing. So I really recommend it. if it's the type of thing you're into learning about. Just making lingerie in general, you can find a lot out there. So yeah, but we'll get more into that tomorrow on stream, and yeah, I hope you'll all be able to make it and come hang out. It'll be an interesting overlap with, I believe the boys are still doing their Monday night as podcast last stream on the left at the exact same time. So you can come make pasties with me, or you can watch whatever Marcus is pulling out, more poop videos or whatever. Do you want to be grossed out, or do you want to craft? That's really your choice. Well, that's good. Yes, Queen. I agree, Catricia. I would miss pretty much any other stream for Jackie's stream. I'll wait and like watch their stuff later. Jackie streams I want to watch live and be part of it because it's fun. Mimi, you have to choose. You have to choose. You can be up and on and hang out, or you can go lay down. What do you want? Okay. I know she's so good at community building. I really love it, and that's why and I believe basically everybody, and like even Yes Queen, who is like mainly involved because of me. I really recommend it to people all the time. I know, just so much love, and everybody in that whole group genuinely feels like included, and it's just so lovely, and I just love spending time there with everybody too, because everybody who's involved is very nice too. Like I don't think there's a single time I've ever been involved in a chat with all of you or whatever, or I've ever felt like left out or unloved, or like I ever said anything that upset anybody or anything. You know what I mean? Like it just feels so genuinely kind. I love it. And speaking as someone who regularly feels left out, whether it be true or not, because it's part of my whole deal, it's good to have a space like that. But anyway, yeah, so it's good to just to get us rolled in here. Yeah, I agree, Catricia. I have dipped my toes into other online communities, and there's always some amount of awkwardness. Like I've recently gotten more into the Twilight shitposting group on Facebook, but they've also got a Discord, and it's quite fun in there. And like it's like once in a while something just pops up where it's just like, oh, we're all inflamed and we're all angry, and it's like, can we not? This is supposed to be stupid. Can we just do more stupid? Yes, I agree. Yes, Queen. Yes, it is that thought train. Yep. You are 100% right. All right, guys. So yeah, we've been hanging for a little bit here. Let's get into the book. We're on chapter 23. I think once we're done this chapter, which is a shorty chapter, we will officially be at halfway at some point in there. And then, yeah, we'll just see how far we go. Because like I've got no plans post-stream today, so we'll just see where we go. Well, I hope it gets spicy and we can just like spend the rest of the day thinking about it, because it was pretty spicy last week. Ooh. I'll leave my lingerie back there, and then it'll be like sexy visualization for everybody. That's fun. Also, because I don't want to move the mannequin again. Chapter 23. The next afternoon, I lay on my back in the grass, savoring the warmth of the sunshine filtering through the canopy of leaves, noting how I might incorporate it into my next painting. Lucian, claiming that he had miserable emissary business to attend to, had left Tamlin and me to our own devices, and the High Lord had taken me to yet another beautiful spot in his enchanted forest. But there were no enchantments here, no pools of starlight, No rainbow waterfalls. It was just a grassy glen watched over by a weeping willow, with a clear brook running through it. We lounged in comfortable silence, and I glanced at Tamlin, who dozed beside me. His golden hair and mask glistened bright against the emerald carpet. The delicate arch of his pointed ears made me pause. He opened an eye and smiled lazily at me. "That willow's singing always puts me to sleep." "The what of what?" I said, propping myself on my elbows to stare at the tree above us. Tamlin pointed toward the willow. The branches sighed as they moved in the breeze. "It sings." "I suppose it sings war camp limericks, too?" He smiled and half sat up, twisting to look at me. "You're human," he said, and I rolled my eyes. "Your senses are still sealed off from everything." I made a face. Just another of my many shortcomings. But the word shortcomings had somehow stopped finding its mark. He plucked a strand of grass from my hair. Heat radiated from my face as his fingers grazed my cheek. "I could make you able to see it," he said. His fingers lingered at the end of my braid, twirling the curl of hair around. "See my world, hear it, smell it." My breathing became shallow as he sat up. "Guys, let's go in there again." "Taste it." His eyes flicked to the fading bruise on my neck. Oh. Respectfully, ew. "How?" I asked, heat blooming as he crouched before me. Oh no, this next line, oh no. "Every gift comes with a price." I frowned, and he grinned. "A kiss." "It's just a kiss. But still." "Why?" "Absolutely not." My blood raced and I had to clench my hands in the grass to keep from touching him. "Don't you think it puts me at a disadvantage to not be able to see all this?" "I'm one of the High Fae. We don't give anything without gaining something from it." I know they're just flirting, but it feels a little coercive. To my own surprise, I said, "Fine." He blinked, probably expecting me to have fought a little harder. I hid my smile and sat up so that I faced him, our knees touching as we knelt in the grass. I licked my lips, my heart fluttering so quickly it felt as if I had a hummingbird inside my chest. "Close your eyes," he said, and I obeyed, my fingers grappling onto the grass. The birds chattered, and the willow branches sighed. The grass crunched as Tamlin rose up on his knees. I braced myself at the brush of his mouth on one of my eyelids, and then on the other. He pulled away, and I was left breathless. The kiss is still lingering on my skin. You kissing her eyes, dude? The singing of birds became an orchestra, a symphony of gossip and mirth. I'd never heard so many layers of music, never heard the variations and themes that wove between their arpeggios. And beyond the birdsong, there was an ethereal melody, a woman, melancholy and weary. The willow. Gasping, I opened my eyes. The world had become richer, clearer. The brook was a near invisible rainbow of water that flowed over stones as invitingly smooth as silk. The trees were clothed in a faint shimmer that radiated from their centers and danced along the edges of their leaves. There was no tangy metallic stench. No, the smell of magic had become like jasmine, like lilac, like roses. I would never be able to paint it, the richness, the feel, maybe fractions of it, but not the whole thing. Magic. Everything was magic, and it broke my heart. I looked at Tamlin, and my heart cracked entirely. It was Tamlin, but not. Rather, it was the Tamlin I dreamed of. His skin gleamed with a golden sheen, and around his head glowed a circlet of sunshine, and his eyes, not merely green and gold, but every hue and variation that could be imagined, as though every leaf in the forest had bled into one shade. This was a High Lord of Prythian, devastatingly handsome, captivating, powerful beyond belief. My breath caught in my throat as I touched the contours of his mask. The cool metal bit into my fingertips, and the emerald slipped against my calloused skin. I lifted my other hand and gently grasped either side of the mask. I pulled lightly. It wouldn't move. He began smiling as I pulled again, and I blinked, dropping my hands. Instantly, the golden, glowing Tamlin vanished, and the one I knew returned. I could still hear the singing of the willow and the birds, but why can't I see you anymore?
Because I willed my glamour back into place.
Glamour for what?
To look normal, or as normal as I can look with this damned thing,
he added, gesturing to the mask.
Being a High Lord, even one with limited powers, comes with physical markers, too. That's why I couldn't hide what I was becoming from my brothers, from anyone. It's still easier to blend in.
But the mask truly can't come off. I mean, are you sure there's no one who knows how to fix what the magic did that night? Even someone in another court? I don't know why the mask bothered me so greatly. I didn't need to see his entire face to know him.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
I just want to know what you look like. I wondered when I'd grown so shallow.
What do you think I look like?
I tilted my head to the side. A strong, straight nose, I said, drawing from what I'd once tried to paint. High cheekbones that bring out your eyes. Slightly arched brows. I finished, blushing. He was grinning so broadly that I could almost see all of his teeth. Those fangs nowhere in sight. I tried to think up an excuse for my forwardness, but a yawn crept from me as a sudden weight pressed on my eyes. What about your part of the bargain?
Oh, what about your part of the bargain?
What? He leaned closer, his smile turning wicked.
What about my kiss?
Ugh. Gross. Yuck and a half. Not cool. Sorry, don't like it. I grabbed his fingers. Here, I said, and slammed my mouth against the back of his hand. There's your kiss. Tamlin roared with laughter, but the world blurred, lulling me to sleep. The willow beckoned me to lie down, and I obliged. From far off, I heard Tamlin curse.
Vera?
Sleep. I wanted sleep. And there was no better place to sleep than right here, listening to the willow and the birds and the brook. I curled on my side, using my arm for a pillow.
I should bring you home,
he murmured, but he didn't move to drag me to my feet. Instead,
I felt a slight thud in the earth, and the spring rain and new grass scent of him cloyed in my nose as he lay beside me. I tingled with pleasure as he stroked my hair. This was such a lovely dream. I'd never slept so wonderfully before, so warm, nestled beside him, calm, faintly echoing into my world of slumber. He spoke again, his breath caressing my ear. You're exactly as I dreamed you'd be, too. Darkness swallowed everything.
That's chapter 23. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Like I said last time I tried to make a prediction. I think there's something he's not telling her. I mean, obviously, but like something about his feelings. Yes, with fake kisses or magic roofies. I think it was the tree music that was sending her to sleep. But like, yeah, sure. I'm sure they have that ability. And yeah, like I said, I know that they're flirting. I know that he wasn't doing anything like explicitly icky, but like the way I read it, I was like, oh, it's a little bit coercive. And now she's just falling asleep and I don't know. Like, yeah. I know. It's like I'm looking for problems. Thank you. So I'm just going to get right into the next chapter. Chapter 24. It wasn't the dawn that awoke me, but rather a buzzing noise. I groaned as I sat up in bed and squinted at the squat woman with skin made from tree bark who fussed with my breakfast dishes. I'm sorry, a tiny tree woman is in your room and we're not going to talk about that? Who's this tree woman? Why are there people made out of tree? Anyway. Where is Alice? I asked, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. Tamlin must have carried me up here. Must have carried me the whole way home. Oh, maybe, yeah, you're right, Yasqueen. Maybe she's seeing people differently now. Ah. Here we go. What? She turned toward me. Her bird mask was familiar. But I would have remembered a fairy with skin like that. Would have painted it already. Is Alice unwell? I said, sliding from the bed. This was my room, wasn't it? A quick glance told me yes. Are you out of your right mind? The fairy said. I bit my lip. I am Alice, she clucked, and with a shake of her head, she strode into the bathing room to start my bath. It was impossible. The Alice I knew was fair and plump and looked like a high fae. I rubbed my eyes with my thumb and forefinger. A glamour. That's what Tamlin had said he wore. His fairy sight had stripped away the glamours I'd been seeing. Why bother to glamour everything? Because I'd been a cowering human, that's why. Because Tamlin knew I would have locked myself in this room and never come out if I'd seen them all for their true selves. Things only got worse when I made my way downstairs to find the High Lord. The hallways were bustling with masked fairies I'd never seen before. Some were tall and humanoid, high fae like Tamlin. Others were not. Fairies. I tried to avoid looking at those ones, as they seemed the most surprised to notice my attention. I was almost shaking by the time I reached the dining room. Lucian mercifully appeared like Lucian. I didn't ask whether that was because Tamlin had informed him to put up a better glamour, or because he didn't bother trying to be something he wasn't. Tamlin lounged in his usual chair, but straightened as I lingered in the doorway. What's wrong? There were a lot of people, fairies, around. When did they arrive? I'd almost yelped when I looked out of my bedroom window and spotted all the fairies in the garden. Many of them, all with insect masks, pruned the hedges and tended the flowers. Those fairies have been the strangest of all, with their iridescent buzzing wings sprouting from their backs. And, of course, then there was the green and brown skin, and their unnaturally long limbs, and... Tamlin bit his lip as if to keep from smiling.
They've been here all along.
But I didn't hear anything.
Of course you didn't,
Lucian drawled, and twirled one of his daggers between his hands.
We made sure you didn't.
Oh, this is Lucian, and I'm doing the wrong voice. Turn around.
Of course you didn't, Lucian drawled and twirled one of his daggers between his hands. We made sure you couldn't see or hear anyone but those who were necessary.
I adjusted the lapels of my tunic. So you mean that when I ran after the puka that night...
You had an audience,
Lucian finished for me. I thought I'd been so stealthy. Meanwhile, I've been tiptoeing past fairies who had probably laughed their heads off at the blind human following an illusion. Fighting against my rising mortification, I turned to Tamlin. His lips twitched, and he clamped them tightly together, but the amusement still danced in his eyes as he nodded.
It was a valiant effort.
But I could see the Naga, and the Puka, and the Suriel, and that fairy whose wings were ripped off, I said, wincing inwardly. Why didn't the glamour apply to them? His eyes darkened.
They're not members of my court, Tamlin said. So my glamour didn't keep a hold on them. The Puka belongs to the wind and weather and everything that changes. And the Naga, they belong to someone else.
I see, I lied. Not quite seeing it all. Lucian chuckled, sensing it, and I glared sidelong at him. You've been noticeably absent again. He used the dagger to clean his nails.
I've been busy. So have you, I take it.
What's that supposed to mean? I demanded.
If I offer you the moon on a string, will you give me a kiss too?
That's a little bit slut-shamey. I don't like it. That's not okay. Once again, looking for problems, but Don't be an ass, Tamlin said to him with a soft snarl. But Lucian continued laughing, and was still laughing when he left the room. Alone with Tamlin, I shifted on my feet. So if I were to encounter the Ator again, I said, mostly to avoid the heavy silence, would I actually see it?
Yes, and it wouldn't be pleasant.
You said it didn't see me that time, and it certainly doesn't seem like a member of your court, I ventured. Why?
Because I threw a glamour over you when we entered the garden, he said simply. The Ator couldn't see, hear, or smell you.
His gaze went to the window beyond me, and he ran a hand through his hair.
I've done all I can to keep you invisible to creatures like the Ator. And worse, the Blight is acting up again, and more of these creatures are being freed from their tethers.
My stomach turned over.
If you spot one, Tamlin continued, even if it looks harmless but makes you feel uncomfortable, pretend you don't see it. Don't talk to it. If it hurts you, the results wouldn't be pleasant for it, or for me. You remember what happened with the Naga.
This was for my own safety, not his amusement. He didn't want me hurt. He didn't want to punish them for hurting me. Even if the Naga hadn't been part of his court, had it hurt him to kill them? Realizing he waited for my answer, I nodded. The Blight is growing again?
So far, only in the territories. You're safe here.
It's not my safety I'm worried about. Tamlin's eyes softened, but his lips became a thin line as he said,
It'll be fine.
Is it possible that the surge will be temporary? A fool's hope. Tamlin didn't reply, which was answer enough. If the Blight was becoming active again, I didn't bother to offer my aid. I already knew he wouldn't allow me to help with whatever this conflict was. But I thought of that painting I had given him, and what he'd said about it, and wished he would let me in anyway. The next morning, I found a head in the garden. A bleeding male high fae head, spiked atop a fountain statue of a great heron flapping its wings. The stone was soaked in enough blood to suggest that the head had been fresh when someone had impaled it on the heron's upraised bill. I had been hauling my paints and easel out to the garden to paint one of the beds of irises when I stumbled across it. My tins and brushes had clattered to the gravel. I didn't know where I went as I stared at that still screaming head, the brown eyes bulging, the teeth broken and bloody. No mask, so he wasn't a part of the spring court. Anything else about him I couldn't discern. His blood was so bright on the gray stone, his mouth opened so vulgarly. I backed away a step and slammed into something warm and hard. I whirled, hands rising out of instinct, but Tamlin's voice said, "It's me." And I stopped cold. Lucian stood beside him, pale and grim. "Not Autumn Court," Lucian said. "I don't recognize him at all." Tamlin's hands clamped on my shoulders as I turned back towards the head. "Neither do I." A soft, vicious growl laced his words, but no claws pricked my skin as he kept gripping me. His hands tightened, though, while Lucian stepped into the small pool in which the statue stood, striding through the red water until he peered up at the anguished face. "They branded him behind the ear with a sigil," Lucian said, swearing. "A mountain with 3 stars. Night Court." Dylan said too quietly. "The Night Court, the domain of Moose. The northernmost bit of Prithian, if I recalled the mural's map correctly. A land of darkness and starlight." Why would they do this?" I breathed. "I thought they only handled parking violations." I gotta like up my Night Court knowledge so that I can make more Night Court jokes, because every time I read it, I just think of it, but I haven't watched enough of the show to know anything about it. Okay, so Soap loves Night Court reruns. Awesome. Please, if you think of anything funny, just like pop it in chat. I will gladly read it and share it, and maybe that'll be how I'll learn about Night Court. Do you think when the writer was putting this together and like had set up all the other courts and was like, damn it, I need to have one that's Night Court, but I don't want to call it Night Court, but I have to call it Night. Like, you think like it even occurred to her that was a thing? Because like it's like naming one of your characters Homer Simpson and just being like, this is fine. I don't know. Maybe just because my brain is 10 and comedy television lives in it. But anyway. Okay, back to the book. Tamlin let go, coming to stand at my side as Lucian climbed the statue to remove the head. I looked toward a blossoming crabapple tree instead.
"The Night Court does what it wants," Tamlin said. "They live by their own codes, their own corrupt morals."
"They're all sadistic killers," Lucian said. I dared a glance at him. He was now perched on the heron's stone wing. I looked away again. "They delight in torture of every kind, and would find this sort of stunt to be amusing." Amusing but not a message? I scanned the garden.
Oh, it's a message,
Lucian said, and I cringed at the thick, wet sounds of flesh and bone on stone as he yanked the head off. I'd skinned enough animals, but this... Tamlin put another hand on my shoulder. Thanks, so yeah, Judge Stone is pretty loosey-goosey when he's on the bench. Thank you. I'd skinned enough animals, but this... Tamlin put another hand on my shoulder.
To get in and out of our defenses, to possibly commit the crime nearby. With the blood this fresh...
A splash as Lucian landed in the water again.
It's exactly what the High Lord of the Night Court would find amusing, the bastard.
I gauged the distance between the pool and the house. 60, maybe 70 feet. That's how close they'd come to us. Tamlin brushed a thumb against my shoulder.
You're still safe here. This was just their idea of a prank.
This isn't connected to the Blight? I asked.
Only in that they know the Blight is again awakening and want us to know they're circling the spring court like vultures, should our wards fall further.
I must have looked as sick as I felt, because Tamlin added,
I won't let that happen.
I didn't have the heart to say their masks made it fairly clear that nothing could be done against the Blight. Lucian splashed out of the fountain, but I couldn't look at him. Not with the head he bore, the blood surely on his hands and clothes. They'll get what's coming to them soon enough. Hopefully the Blight will wreck them too. Tamlin growled at Lucian to take care of the head, and the gravel crunched as Lucian departed. I crouched to pick up my paints and brushes, my hands shaking as I fumbled for a large brush. Tamlin knelt next to me, but his hands closed around mine, squeezing. Y'all, the dog's sleeping on my lap and she's starting to have dreams, so if you hear like little yippee noises, it's because she's enjoying her rest.
You're still safe, he said again.
The Surreal's command echoed through my mind. Stay safe with the High Lord, human. You will be safe. I nodded.
It's court posturing, he said. The Night Court is deadly, but this was only their lord's idea of a joke. Attacking anyone here, attacking you, would cause more trouble than it's worth for him. If the Blight truly does harm these lands and the Night Court enters our borders, we'll be ready.
My knees shook as I rose. Fairy politics, fairy courts. Their idea of jokes must have been even more horrible than we were when we were enslaved to you all. They must have tortured us whenever they liked. Must have done such unspeakable, awful things to their human pets. A shadow flickered in his eyes. Some days, I'm very glad I was still a child when my father sent his slaves south of the wall. What I witnessed then was bad enough. I didn't want to imagine. Even now, I still hadn't looked to see if any hints of those long-ago humans had been left behind. I did not think 5 centuries would be enough to cleanse the stain of the horrors that my people had endured. I should have let it go. Should have, but couldn't. Do you remember if they were happy to leave? Tamlin shrugged.
Yes. Yet they had never known freedom, or known the seasons as you do. They didn't know what to do in the mortal world, but yes, most of them were very, very happy to leave.
Each word was more ground out than the next.
I was happy to see them go, even if my father wasn't.
Despite the stillness with which he stood, his claws poked out from above his knuckles. No wonder he'd been so awkward with me. Had no idea what to do with me when I'd first arrived. But I said quietly, "You're not your father, Tamlin, or your brothers." He glanced away, and I added,
You never made me feel like a prisoner. Never made me feel like more than chattel. Like little more than chattel. The shadows that flickered in his eyes as he nodded his thanks told me there was more. Still more that he had yet to tell me about his family, his life before they'd been killed, and this title had been thrust upon him. I wouldn't ask, not with the blight pressing down on him. Not until he was ready. He'd given me space and respect. I could offer him no less. Still, I couldn't bring myself to paint that day. And that's chapter 25, or 24. We're on to chapter 25. And we are at 52%, so we've passed the halfway mark now. I also haven't been updating the chapter numbers, so let's get on to that here. Yeah, that one was gruesome, but it was kind of cool. I'm interested to hear more about Night Court, jokes aside, just because they sound kind of evil and spooky. Yeah, let's just get right into chapter 25. I'm pretty down with this one. This one's 25 minutes, it's the longer one. You know what, let's chill for 2 seconds. I'm gonna put my nail back on because I keep looking at it. It's distracting me. How are you all feeling? Do you have any predictions? Those who have not read it yet, Katrisha? Anything you all are particularly excited to see? Aside from more sauciness, which I hope comes soon. Oh, hi, Uncanny Rachel. Yeah, I mean, what a perfect opportunity. We're doing a read through here, so. Feel like going back and catching up. Everything's on the YouTube. Which I should really put the link to, down somewhere on the actual Twitch page for those that come here first, but I'm not perfect. Oh, okay, so yes, Queen, you think it wasn't an evil practical joke. I believe then that it was probably at least partially a joke. I know it's also probably a threat of some kind, for sure. But it sounds like they're expecting that, it sounds like it's not anything super out of the ordinary. I think the fear is more the blight than the Night Court itself. Yeah. It's a prank, bro. It's just a prank. Oh, I hate pranks. I'm not a prank person. I really don't like them. I'm far too sensitive for it. My partner likes to watch pranks sometimes, some prank stuff. He's never pranked me, but he'll watch it and he'll be like, isn't that funny? I'm like, that's not funny at all. Please don't ever do that to me. Yes, Katrisha, you're right. Yes, also in this chapter, we learned that Fabra doesn't really understand what's going on around her. So it's true. Yeah, she doesn't. And especially before. Right, and Candy Rachel, yeah, you get really mad when people try to prank you. Yeah, I do. I don't do well when people try to prank me. I don't do well with really sharply targeted teasing. It's something my family does a lot to each other is tease. I'm not good at it. I don't like it. And they always would be like, oh, just relax. We're just teasing. And I'm like, no, I really just don't like it. Please don't. I tease back at people all the time, but my teasing is fairly light. Okay, yes. So Queen says, I like harmless pranks, like when my best friend filled my room up with balloons while I was... See, that's funny. That's okay. Yeah, that's a harmless prank. Nobody's hurt. I don't mind that. Yeah, when I say pranks, I mean the kind where it's
somehow messing somebody's whole, like, shit up. Like, the balloon thing isn't gonna break anything or hurt you or whatever, and, like, you can easily clean it up and deal with it. That's fine. But yeah, pranks where you, like, pie someone in the face, or, you know, you make somebody think that, like, they're in trouble, or you make them witness something horrific and try to get a really big reaction out of them. Like, I don't like that. Okay, Uncanny Riddle says, I had people at my office move all my equipment while I was on a business trip. Oh, and you got in and you thought you were fired? Yeah, I would think that. I would be very concerned. I completely understand. Yeah, so, yeah. You're usually really chill, but I hate pranks, yep. Yep, excuses for people to be jerks. Not cool. Okay, Tricia says, never forget Jackie describing an episode of Married at First Sight and saying they're too much of a roast family. Yeah, roast family. Mm-hmm. My first ex made me think they had been badly hurt and needed to go to the hospital. Fake blood and all. Was not a fan when I found out it was a prank. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be cool with that. No, I don't like being put through that. Not okay. Not okay. Yeah, no, that's not cool. That's manipulative, is what that is, and that's not okay. Yeah, I'm having trouble thinking of examples of times I've been pranked and it hasn't been good. But I know it's happened because my brother loves to prank. On the upside, I learned I'm great in a crisis. Yeah. I mean, hey, you learned something about yourself. That's a positive way to look at that very negative experience. And that's a healthy way to look at it for yourself. It's not okay that it happened, but now you know that about yourself, and that's okay. All right. So yeah, we can get into chapter 25 here, I think. We're actually, like, for starting late, we're making okay time, really, considering. Chapter 25. Tamla was called away to one of the borders hours after I found that head. Where and why, he wouldn't tell me, but I sensed enough from what he didn't say. The Blight was indeed crawling from other courts, directly toward ours. He stayed the night, the first he'd ever spent away, but sent Lucian to inform me that he was alive. Oh, I want to read because you're just coming here, one sec. At one job, I had a cubicle and decorated with Lego figures. Someone pulled a prank on me by making all the figures turn around and showing their butts. I laughed. Great prank. See, that's funny. Because it doesn't, like, hurt you or do anything to your... It's easily reversed. Like, that's the key to a good prank, is that it being, like, any harm done is easily, like, reversed. Nobody's hurt. You just laugh, and then you can clean it up and it's done. And I'm okay with that. Oh, so, like, yeah, so here's an example of a prank that, like, was bad for the business that was involved, but it was college, and did not hurt anybody. It was quite funny, and this is one that my partner played, and I thought was hilarious. At the time. Now, having worked in restaurants, I would not think this is funny. So, but there was a bar we used to go to in college. Like, basically every day we'd go after, and I wasn't even old enough to drink, so I wasn't drinking. I was just going there and, like, getting chicken wings or whatever and hanging out with everybody. Because they had, like, couches and, like, low tables. Everybody could chill for a while. And it was, like, right around the corner. So we went there basically every day after classes. And as every time this one friend of ours would come, he just left his stuff, like, everywhere, and he would get a little bit too drunk most days. He wasn't healthy, but college. And he would just, like, leave his backpack open and on the floor just hanging out. And so, like, to try to teach him a lesson about that, my partner would always grab one of, like, the big leather menus from the bar and put it in his bag so he would take it home. And he would always forget to bring them back, too. So by the end of the semester or however long he was doing this, the guy had like 20 of these menus, like a big old stack of menus from this restaurant. And like, you can't bring back a stack of 20 menus and just be like, hey, I just have all these. Because their menus also probably changed several times over at that point. It was just like, it didn't hurt anybody. It's not even really that funny. It's just weird. But it seemed to create a small inconvenience for this person. And also he like had to lug it all the way from the bar home and not realize the whole time. So like it was just weird. I thought that was funny. Oh, and then there was also another college was when a lot of the pranks happened because it's college. Like where he submitted, there was like a little bio thing you could get in the school like newspaper that they put out, where you could like do a profile on a student, right? And you'd send in a picture and just like write a little profile answer to the questions. And he did one for our friend, who was actually the person who ended up being our roommate later on, like after college, and lived with us in Toronto for a while. Where he didn't say anything mean about him. He just like made up a fake profile, like used a funny picture of him from like when we were going through the costume room and he was wearing some funny stuff from the theater costume room. And like, I don't even think he put his real name on it. I think he made up a fake name for him. And then just wrote like funny answers to all the questions, and it got printed. It ended up in the paper, and he saved that. Like our friend saved that because he thought that was so funny. See, so like that didn't hurt anybody. It's not like he didn't say anything mean about this guy. He just made up funny answers. It was good. That was a good one. Anyway, let's get back to the chapter. That's right, yes, Queen. Yes, a good prank should be as funny for the person being pranked. That's correct. Okay, so Tamlin was called to the borders. Next. He stayed the night. The first he'd ever spent away, but sent Lucian to inform me that he was alive. Lucian had emphasized the last word enough that I slept terribly, even as a small part of me marveled that Tamlin had bothered to let me know about his well-being. I knew I was headed down a path that would likely end in my immortal heart being left in pieces, and yet I couldn't stop myself. I hadn't been able to since that day with the Naga. But seeing that head, the games these courts played with people's lives as tokens on a board, was an effort to keep food down whenever I thought about it. Yet despite the creeping malice, I awoke the next day in the sound of merry fiddling. To the sound of merry fiddling, and when I looked out the window, I found the garden bedecked in ribbons and streamers. On the distant hills, I spied the makings of fires and maypoles being raised. When I asked Alice, whose people I'd learned were called the Ersk, she simply said, "Summer solstice. The main celebration used to be at the summer court, but things are different. So now we have one here, too. You're going." Oh, so it's probably not another, like, weird orgy thing. That's cool. Summer. In the weeks that I'd been painting and dining with Tamlin and wandering the court lands at his side, summer had come. Did my family still truly believe me to be visiting some long-lost aunt? What were they doing with themselves? If it was the solstice, then there would be a small gathering in the village center. Nothing religious, of course, though the children of the blessed might wander in to try to convert the young people. Just some shared food, donated ale from the solitary tavern, and maybe some line dances. The only thing to celebrate was a day's break from the long summer days of planting and tilling. From the decorations around the estate, I could tell this would be something far grander, far more spirited. Tamlin remained gone for most of the day. Worry gnawed at me as I painted a quick, loose rendering of the streamers and ribbons in the garden. Perhaps it was petty and selfish, given the returning Blight, but I also quietly hoped that the solstice didn't require the same rites as Fire Night. Yeah, I mean, I doubt it, but yeah. I didn't let myself think too much about what I would do if Tamlin had a flock of beautiful fairies lining up for him. It wasn't until late afternoon that I heard Tamlin's deep voice and Lucian's braying laugh echo through the halls all the way to my painting room. Relief sent my chest caving in.
But as I rushed to find them, Alice yanked me upstairs. She stripped off my paint-splattered clothes and insisted I change into a flowing cornflower blue chiffon gown. She left my hair unbound but wove a garland of pink, white, and blue wildflowers around the crown of my head. I might have felt childish with it on, but in the months I'd been there, my sharp bones and skeletal form had filled out. A woman's body. Oh. I ran my hands over the sweeping, soft curves of my waist and hips. I had never thought I would feel anything but muscle and bone.
Cauldron boil me,
Lucian whistled as I came down the stairs. She looks positively fey.
What's that supposed to mean, dude? Anyway.
I was too busy looking Tamlin over, scanning for an injury, any sign of blood or mark that the blight might have left, to thank Lucian for the compliment.
That's right, so ooh, you have a woman's body.
But Tamlin was clean, almost glowing, completely unarmed, and smiling at me. Whatever he'd gone to deal with had left him unscathed. "You look lovely," Tamlin murmured, and something in his soft tone made me want to purr. Ew. I squared my shoulders, disinclined to let him see how much his words or voice or sheer well-being impacted me. Not yet. I'm surprised I'm even allowed to participate tonight.
I don't like this, Andre.
Unfortunately for you and your neck, Lucian countered, tonight's just a party.
Gross, rude. But sassy.
Do you lie awake at night to come up with your witty replies for the following day? Lucian winked at me, and Tamlin laughed and offered me his arm. He's right, the High Lord said. I was aware of every inch where we touched, of the hard muscles beneath his green tunic. He led me into the garden, and Lucian followed. Solstice celebrates when the sun outshines the night. As the longest day of the year, it's a time when everyone can take down their hair and simply enjoy being a fairy. Not high fae or fairy, just us, and nothing else. So there's singing and dancing and excessive drinking, Lucian chimed in, falling into step beside me. And dallying, he added with a quick, wicked grin.
Well, good for you, man. Why are you so gross? I don't know.
Indeed, every brush of Tamlin's body against mine made it harder to avoid the urge to lean into him entirely, to smell him and touch him and taste him.
I will be honest here. I have never in my life, thought about how another person, tastes, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I don't think about it. It's not part of my arousal thoughts. It's not in there. Taste is not one of the senses that I'm that's what I'm thinking about. Usually I'm trying to ignore it because I'm not down with that, but that's me. So when they say it, I just feel ugh. I would be a terrible cannibal. Human being is not tasty. Sorry to say it. See, like I said, everybody's got their different feelings. Everybody experiences different. It's not a read or a shade on any of you. It's just for me. I'm not into it. But you do you. Clearly Fairies and she talks about it a lot. Okay, where were we here? Whether he noticed the heat singeing my neck and face, or heard my uneven heartbeat, he revealed nothing, holding my arm tighter as we walked out of the garden and into the fields beyond. The sun was beginning its final descent. When we reached the plateau on which the festivities were to be held, I tried not to gawk at the fairies gathered, even as I was in turn gawked at by them. I'd never seen so many in one place before, at least not without the glamour hiding them from me. Now that my eyes were open to the sight, the exquisite dresses and lithe forms that were shaped and colored and built so strangely and differently were a marvel to behold. See, so it's down with the taste. There we go. So everybody but me. Everybody but me. It's just me. Okay. Yet what little novelty my own presence by the High Lord's side offered soon wore off, helped by a low, warning growl from Tamlin that sent the others scattering to mind their own business. Table after table of food had been lined up along the far edge of the plateau, and I lost Tamlin while I waited in line to fill a plate, leaving me to try my best not to look like I was some human plaything of his. Music started near the giant smoking bonfire, fiddles and drums and merry instruments that had me tapping my feet in the grass. Light and joyous and open, the mirthful sister to the bloodthirsty fire knight. Lucian, of course, excelled at disappearing when I needed him, and so I ate my fill of strawberry shortcake, apple tart, and blueberry pie, no different from summer treats in the mortal realm, alone beneath a sycamore covered with silken lanterns and sparkling ribbons. I didn't mind the solitude, not when I was busy contemplating the way lanterns and ribbons shone, the shadows they cast. Perhaps it would be my next painting. Or maybe I would paint the ethereal fairies beginning to dance, such angles and colors to them. I wondered if any of them had been the subjects of the painters whose work was displayed in the gallery. I moved only to get myself something to drink. The plateau became more crowded as the sun sank toward the horizon. Across the hills, other bonfires and parties began, their music filtering through the occasional pause in ours. I was pouring myself a goblet of golden sparkling wine when Lucian finally appeared behind me. Peering over my shoulder, "I wouldn't drink that if I were you." "Oh," I said, frowning at the fizzing liquid. "Fairy wine at the solstice," Lucian hinted. I said, taking a sniff. It didn't reek of alcohol. In fact, it smelled like summers spent lying in the grass and bathing in cool ponds. I never smelled anything so fantastic. "I'm serious," Lucian said as I lifted the glass to my lips, my brows raised. "Remember the last time you ignored my warning?" He poked me in the neck, and I batted his hand away. "I also remember you telling me how witch berries were harmless, and the next thing I knew, I was half delirious and falling all over myself," I said, recalling the afternoon from a few weeks ago. I'd had hallucinations for hours afterwards, and Lucian had laughed himself sick, enough so that Tamlin had chucked him into the reflection pool. Oh, see, that would have been fun to read about. But also, don't drug your friends. I shook away the thought. Today, just for today, I would indeed let my hair down. Today, let caution be damned. Forget the blight hovering at the edges of the court, threatening my High Lord and his lands. Oh, my High Lord? Oh, excuse me. Where was Tamlin, anyway? If there had been some threat, surely Lucian would have known. Surely they would have called off the celebration. "Well, I mean it this time," Lucian said, and I shifted my goblet out of his reach. "Tam would gut me if he caught you drinking that." "Always looking after your best interests," I said, and pointedly chugged the contents of the glass. See, what you should have done, and what I would have done, is ask him why, before just being like, "I'ma just do it," because you don't know what it does. Maybe it's gonna kill you. I don't know. It was like a million fireworks exploding inside me, filling my veins with starlight. I laughed aloud, and Lucian groaned. "Human fool," he hissed, but his glamour had been ripped away. His auburn hair burned like hot metal, and his russet eyes smoldered like a bottomless forge. That was what I could capture next. Yeah, I mean, he could have been using reverse psychology, sure, but if it seems, I'm very cautious. If it seems like it could be dangerous, try to get your facts straight first. This is why I haven't tried many substances in my life. And I need somebody that I trust to guide me through it, because I can't. I don't trust myself. "I'm going to paint you," I said, and giggled, actually giggled, as the words popped out. "Cauldron boil and fry me," he muttered, and I laughed again. Before he could stop me, oh no, I downed another glass of fairy wine. It was the most glorious thing I'd ever tasted. It liberated me from bonds I hadn't known existed. It sounded like she just getting drunk. The music became a siren song. The melody was my lodestone, and I was powerless against its lure. With each step, I savored the dampness of the grass beneath my bare feet. I didn't remember when I'd lost my shoes. See, she's just drunk. The sky was an eddy of molten amethyst, sapphire, and ruby, all bleeding into a pool of onyx. I wanted to swim in it, wanted to bathe in its colors and feel the stars twinkling between my fingers. Maybe there's a little acid in here. Or weed. I don't know. Some sort of tincture. There's a secondary substance here, but mainly it's alcohol. I stumbled, blinking, and found myself standing at the edge of the ring of dancing. A cluster of musicians played their fairy instruments, and I swayed on my feet as I watched the fairies dancing, circling the bonfire. Yes, little Kissel in his tincture, yeah. This is what was happening. Oh, speaking of Kissel, did anybody see his Instagram post from last night because he was out? Who gave him a luchador mask, and where was he? Was it a concert? Was it a wrestling thing? I don't know, because it seemed like both was happening. I'm glad he had fun, though. Anyway, not formal dancing. It was like they were as loose as I was. Free. I loved them for it. "Damn it, Feyre," Lucian said, gripping my elbow. "Do you want me to kill myself trying to keep you from impaling your mortal hide on another rock?" "What?" I said, turning to him. The whole world spun with me, delightful and entrancing. "Idiot," he said when he looked at my face. "Drunken idiot." Yeah, see, she drunk. The tempo increased. I wanted to be in the music, wanted to ride its speed and weave between its notes. I could feel the music around me, like a living, breathing thing of wonder and joy and beauty. "Feyre, stop," Lucian said, and grabbed me again. I'd been dancing away, and my body was still swaying toward the pull of the sound. "You stop. Stop being so serious," I said, shaking him off. I wanted to hear the music, wanted to hear it hot off the instruments. Lucian swore as I burst into movement. Just picture her just like flopping around. No coherent dance at all. Just I skipped between the dancers, twirling my skirts. The seated masked musicians didn't look up at me as I leaped before them, dancing in place. Girl. Oh, you're gonna regret that later. No chains, no boundaries, just me and the music dancing and dancing. I wasn't fairy, but I was a part of this earth, and the earth was a part of me, and I would be content to dance upon it for the rest of my life. I am one with everything. This reminds me of probably the only time that I've been that drunk in my life. I do remember enough of it but I was leaving this like dance party with a couple of my friends, and actually one of my friends' moms was there. And she was fine with this, apparently. And we were walking out, and there was like a stray cat on the road outside of the venue that we were at. And I just decided, I want to pet the cat. And I chased the cat all down the road. And I can't remember, because this is part of where it goes fuzzy, but it was either like an extremely feral cat or it was a raccoon. Because either way, as I got closer, it got really aggressive, and my friends had to pull me away. Anyway. One of the musicians looked up from his fiddling, and I halted. Sweat gleamed on the strong column of his neck as he rested his chin upon the dark wood of the fiddle. He'd rolled up the sleeves of his shirt, revealing the cords of muscle along his forearms. He had once mentioned that he would have liked to be traveling feeling the cords of muscle along his forearms. He'd once mentioned that he would have liked to be a traveling minstrel, if not a warrior or a high lord. Now, hearing him play, I knew he could have made a fortune from it. Oh, Tamlin's playing the music. That's nice. Okay, Tricia says, in college, when I would get blackout, I would apparently start insisting I was a ballerina and prance around. Yeah. I remember at that same dance party when I got really drunk that at some point there was like a stage just below the DJ, and me and my friends got up there. Why not? And then some other girls got up on the stage too, and like we started dancing together, and like one girl was like, "You seem to like this. Is this okay?" And I was like, "This is fine." Because it was like my first like queer party I'd been to at the time when I come out as bi, and been fine with like expressing that. And like obviously it wasn't like cheating on my partner or anything. He was aware of all of this. It's just dancing. But it was like, yeah, this is happening. Okay, where are we here? So anyway, she just found out that Tamlin is the one who's playing the music that she's like so into. Always the musicians. I'm sorry, Tam, Lucian panted, appearing from nowhere. I left her alone for a little at one of the food tables, and when I caught up to her, she was drinking the wine, and Tamlin didn't pause in his playing, his golden hair damp with sweat. He looked marvelously handsome, even though I couldn't see most of his face. He gave me a feral smile as I began to dance in place before him. I'll look after her, Tamlin murmured above the music, and I glowed, my dancing becoming faster. Go enjoy yourself. Lucian fled. I shouted over the music, I don't need a keeper. I wanted to spin and spin and spin. You're not my mom. No, you don't, Tamlin said, never once stumbling over his playing. How his bow did dance upon the strings, his fingers sturdy and strong. No signs of those claws that I had come to stop fearing. Dance, Farah, he whispered. Ooh, something's going on there. So I did. I was loosened, a top whirling around and around, and I didn't know who I danced with or what they looked like, only that I'd become the music and the fire and the night. I am the music, I am the fire, I am the night. Sorry, she's not Batman. And there was nothing that could slow me down. Through it all, Tamlin and his musicians played such joyous music that I didn't think the world could contain it all. I sashayed over to him. My fairy lord, once again, she's like referring to him as hers, that's a thing. My protector and warrior, my friend, and danced before him. He grinned at me, and I didn't break my dancing as he rose from his seat and knelt before me in the grass, offering up a solo on his fiddle to me. Music just for me, a gift. He played on, his fingers fast and hard upon the strings of his fiddle, my body slithering like a snake. I tipped my head back to the heavens and let Tamlin's music fill all of me. He wrote this song for me. Isn't that always the way? Especially in these books. Oh, he wrote me a song. There was a pressure at my waist, and I was swept away in someone's arms as they whisked me back into the ring of dancing. I laughed so hard I thought I'd combust, and when I opened my eyes, I found Tamlin there, spinning me round and round. Everything became a blur of color and sound, and he was the only object in it, tethering me to sanity, to my body, which glowed and burned in every place he touched. I was filled with sunshine. It was like I'd never experienced summer before, like I'd never known who was waiting to emerge from that forest of ice and snow. I didn't want it to end. I never wanted to leave this hilltop. The music came to a close, and, gasping for breath, I glanced at the moon. It was near setting. Sweat slid down every part of my body. Tamlin, panting as well, took my hand.
Time goes faster when you're drunk on fairy wine.
I'm not drunk, I said, snorting. Yes, you are. He only chuckled and led me from the dancing. I dug my heels into the ground as we neared the edge of the firelight. They're starting again, I said, pointing to the dancers gathering before the refreshed musicians. He leaned close, his breath caressing the shell of my ear as he whispered,
I want to show you something better.
Oh, no. Isn't that dick? Sorry. I stopped objecting. He led me off the hill, navigating his way by moonlight. Whatever path he chose, he did so out of consideration for my bare feet. Where am I? I've lost my spot because we're all talking in the chat. Yes. Yeah. For only soft grass cushioned my steps. Soon even the music faded away, replaced by the sighing of trees and the night breeze. Here, Tamlin said, pausing at the edge of a vast meadow. His hand lingered on my shoulder as we looked out. So he writes her a song, he takes her to a meadow. Can we increase the Twilight counter at some point? Because this is all... You know, just, oh, my lip is itchy. I think it's because I'm getting nervous, getting all hot in the face. The high grasses moved like water as the last of the moonlight. Edward never wrote bad poetry, that is correct. Although he seems like the type who would. Why didn't he? He should have. Not the bad poetry, he would have written very chaste poetry. But I would have loved to have heard some dirty poetry. Anyway. The high grasses moved like water as the last of the moonlight danced upon them. Oh, yes, Queen, there are Twilight limericks for sure, like, out there in the world. People write all kinds of stuff like that. Mormon poetry, though, boring. What is this? I breathed as he put a finger to his lips and beckoned me to look. For a few minutes, there was nothing. Then from the opposite side of the meadow, dozens of shimmering shapes floated out across the grass. Little more than mirages of moonlight. That was when the singing began. It was a collective voice, but in it existed both male and female, two sides of the same coin, singing to each other in a call and response. I raised a hand to my throat as their music rose, and they danced. Ghostly and ethereal, they waltzed across the field, no more than slender slants of moonlight. What are they?
Will-o'-the-wisps, spirits of air and light, he said softly. Come to celebrate the solstice.
They're beautiful. His lips grazed my neck as he murmured against my skin. Every time his mouth gets close to that neck. Just saying. Just saying.
Dance with me, Farah.
Really? I turned and found my face mere inches from his. He cracked a lazy smile.
Really?
As though I were nothing but air myself, he pulled me into a sweeping dance. I barely remembered any of the shapes I'd learned in childhood, but he compensated for it with his feral grace, never faltering, always sensing any stumble before it made it as we before I made it as we danced across the spirit-riddled field. Oh, we're coming up on another frequently highlighted line. I was unburdened as a piece of dandelion fluff, and he was the wind that stirred me about the world. That's pretty, but why is that frequently highlighted? He smiled at me, and I found myself smiling back. I didn't need to pretend, didn't need to be anything but what I was right then. Being twirled around the meadow, the will-o'-the-wisps dancing around us like dozens of moons. Our dancing slowed, and we stood there, holding each other as we swayed to the songs of the spirits. He rested his chin upon my head and stroked my hair, his fingers grazing the bare skin of my neck.
Farah,
he whispered into my head, onto my head. He made my name sound beautiful.
Farah,
he whispered again, not in question, but simply as if he enjoyed saying it. As quick as they'd appeared, the spirits vanished, taking their music with them. I blinked. The stars were fading, and the sky had turned grayish-purple. Tamlin's face was inches from my own.
It's almost dawn.
I nodded, mesmerized by the sight of him, the smell and feel of him holding me. I reached up to touch his mask. It was so cold, despite how flushed his skin was just beyond it. My hand shook, and my breathing became shallow as I grazed the skin of his jaw. It was smooth and hot. He wet his lips, his breathing as uneven as my own. His fingers contracted against the plane of my lower back, and I let him tug me closer to him until our bodies were touching, and the warmth of him seeped into me. Ugh. I had to tilt my head back to see his face. His mouth was caught somewhere between a smile and a wince. Yeah, Katrisha, I do see he smiled lazily or whatever a lot in romance novels, and like, I know what they're saying, but I agree, like, a lazy smile is, So yeah, a lazy smile is probably something like... Trying to do it now. Like, there's no effort in it. It's just kind of, like, sort of a smirk. That's what I imagine anyway. I can't do it right. But why is he wincing? What? I asked, and put a hand on his chest, preparing to shove myself back. But his other hand slipped under my hair, resting at the base of my neck. I'm thinking I might kiss you, he said quietly, intently. Like he's his own personal brand of heroin, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was like, this isn't... I know it sounds vampiric, but there's no vampire shit. You don't want to eat her. So what's the problem, dude? I'm thinking I might want to kiss you, he said quietly, intently. Then do it. I blushed at my own boldness. But Tamlin only gave that breathy laugh and leaned in. His lips brushed mine, testing, soft and warm. He pulled back a little. He was still staring at me, and I stared right back as he kissed me again, harder, but nothing like the way he'd kissed my neck. He withdrew more fully this time and watched me. That's it? I demanded, and he laughed and kissed me fiercely. Oh my god. Oh my. My hands went around his neck, pulling him closer, crushing myself against him. His hands roved my back, playing in my hair, grasping my waist, as if he couldn't touch enough of me at once. Oh my. He let out a low groan. "Come," he said, kissing my brow. "We'll miss it if we don't go now." I couldn't do his voice in that moment because I'm just so, tense right now. "Better than will-o'-the-wisps?" I asked. But he kissed my cheeks, my neck, and finally my lips. I followed him into the trees, to the ever-lightening world. His hand was solid and unmovable around mine as we passed through the low-lying mists, and he helped me up a bare hill slick with dew. We sat atop its crest, and I hid my smile as Tanlin put an arm around my shoulders, tucking me in close. I rested my head against his chest while he toyed with the flowers in my garland. In silence, we stared out over the rolling green expanse. The sky shifted into periwinkle, and the clouds filled with pink light. Then, like a shimmering disk too rich and clear to be described, the sun slipped over the horizon and lined everything with gold. It was like seeing the world being born, and we were the sole witnesses. Tamlin's arm tightened around me, and he kissed the top of my head. I pulled back, looking up at him. The gold in his eyes, bright with the rising sun, flickered. "What?" "My father once told me that I should let my sisters imagine a better life, a better world. And I told him that there was no such thing." Oh, it was her talking. Bah, I'm dumb. "My father once told me that I should let my sisters imagine a better life, a better world. And I told him that there was no such thing." I ran my thumb over his mouth, marveling, and shook my head. I never understood, because I couldn't believe that it was even possible. I swallowed, lowering my hand. Until now. His throat bobbed. His kiss that time was deep and thorough, unhurried, and intent. I let the dawn creep inside me, let it grow with each movement of his lips and brushed of his tongue against mine. Ooh. Tears pricked beneath my closed eyes. It was the happiest moment of my life. Aww. Her life is so sad. It's very beautiful and very nice, but...
That's not nice.
Siri just said it wasn't nice either. All right, so that was chapter 25. We're just coming up on 5:30 here. So I know we started late, so if people want to keep going, we can keep going. Or we can wrap up. I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, isn't it? Or something. So I don't know if people want to go and do a football. I don't want to take up your whole day, but you let me know. I'm chilling here for a minute. Katricia's down to keep going. What do we think, guys? Okay, so we'll keep going. Yas Queen's down too. All right. Yeah, Uncanny Rachel don't need to do football. Great. Okay, I'm glad. I didn't feel like we were the football crowd. If you're here to listen to me read a fantasy romance novel to you, I highly doubt that you're itching to go to the football. But I don't know. Maybe. So let's do it. Chapter 26. The next day, Lucian joined us for lunch, which was breakfast for all of us. Ever since... One second. Ever since I'd complained about the unnecessary size of the table, we'd taken to dining at a much reduced version. Sorry, my nose is so itchy now. I think I'm allergic to something. It's not the incense, because I use that all the time, and it's not my makeup, because I use that all the time, so... You see me with a big bright red nose because I keep scratching it. Sorry. Okay. Lucian kept rubbing at his temples as he ate, unusually silent, and I hid my smile as I asked him, "And where were you last night?" Lucian's metal eye narrowed on me. "I'll have you know that while you two were dancing with the spirits, I was stuck on border patrol." Tamlin gave a pointed cough, and Lucian added, "With some company." He gave me a sly grin. "Rumor has it you two didn't come back until after dawn." I glanced at Tamlin, biting my lip. I'd practically floated into my bedroom that morning, but Tamlin's gaze now roved my face as if searching for any tinge of regret or fear. Ridiculous. "You bit my neck on Fire Night," I said under my breath. "If I can face you after that, a few kisses are nothing." He braced his forearms on the table as he leaned closer to me. "Nothing?" His eyes flicked to my lips. Lucian shifted in his seat, muttering to the cauldron to spare him, but I ignored him. Yeah, like, you're just hanging out with your friends and they start talking about how they were making out last night. You're just like, I hate that. "Nothing," I repeated a bit distantly, watching Tamlin's mouth move, so keenly aware of every movement he made. Resenting the table between us, I could almost feel the warmth of his breath. "Are you sure?" he murmured, intent and hungry enough that I was glad I was sitting. He could have had me right there on top of that table. My God. Okay, yep, this is a spicy paragraph. Spicy paragraph. Yes, poor Lucian. I wanted his broad hands running over my bare skin, wanted his teeth scraping against my neck, wanted his mouth all over me. You want to be all covered in spit? Agreed, Lucian. "I'm trying to eat," Lucian said, and I blinked, the air whooshing out of me. "But now that I have your attention..." "Tamlin," he snapped, though the High Lord was looking at me again, devouring me with his eyes. Yeah, just like, there's only three of ya. Your two besties are there, just like ready to grab each other, and you're just like, dude, I want to eat my fucking eggs and talk to you. Can you not right now? Lucian wants his breakfast. Yes. I could hardly sit still, could hardly stand the clothes scratching my too hot skin. Like, I get what you're saying there, but like, there's another dude in the room. With some effort, Tamlin glanced back at his emissary. Lucian shifted in his seat. "Not to be the bearer of truly bad tidings, but my contact at the Winter Court managed to get a letter to me." Lucian took a steadying breath, and I wondered if being emissary also meant being spy master. Yeah, obviously. And wondered why he was bothering to say this in my presence at all, because he doesn't care. The smile instantly faded from Tamlin's face. "The Blight," Lucian said tightly, softly. "He took out 24 of their younglings. 24, all gone." He swallowed. "It just burned through their magic, then broke apart their minds. No one in the Winter Court could do anything. No one could stop it once it turned its attention toward them. Their grief is unfathomable. My contact says other courts are being hit hard. Though the Night Court, of course, manages to remain unscathed. But the Blight seems to be sending its wickedness this way, further south with every attack." All the warmth, all the sprawling joy drained from me like blood down a drain. The blight can truly kill people, I managed to say. Younglings, it had killed children, like some storm of darkness and death. Yeah, right, Captain Buzzkill. He's like, I got bad news and I've got to eat my toast. Can we just do this? And if offspring were as rare as Alice had claimed, the loss of so many would be more devastating than I could imagine. Tamlin's eyes were shadowed, and he slowly shook his head, as if trying to clear the grief and shock of those deaths from him. The blight is capable of hurting us in ways you... He shot to his feet so quickly that his chair flipped over. He unsheathed his claws and snarled at the open doorway, canines long and gleaming. The house, usually full of the whispering skirts and chatter of servants, had gone silent. Not the pregnant silence of Fire Night, but rather a trembling quiet that made me want to scramble under the table. Or just start running. Lucian swore and drew his sword. Get Feyre to the window by the curtains, Tamlin growled to Lucian, not taking his eyes off the open doors. Lucian's hand gripped my elbow, dragging me out of my chair. What? I started, but Tamlin growled again, the sound echoing through the room. I snatched one of the knives off the table and let Lucian lead me to the window, where he pushed me against the velvet drapes. I wanted to ask why he didn't bother hiding me behind them, but the fox-masked fairy just pressed his back into me, pinning me between him and the wall. The tang of magic shoved itself up my nostrils. Though his sword was pointed at the floor, Lucian's grip tightened on it until his knuckles turned white. Magic, a glamour, to conceal me, to make me a part of Lucian. Invisible. Hidden by the fairy's magic and scent. I peered over his shoulder at Tamlin, who took a long breath and sheathed his claws and fangs, his baldric of knives appearing from thin air across his chest. But he didn't draw any of the knives. As he righted his chair and slouched in it, picking at his nails, as if nothing were happening. But someone was coming. Someone awful enough to frighten them. Someone who would want to hurt me if they knew I was here. The hissing voice of the Ator slithered through my memory. There were worse creatures than it, Tamlin had told me. Worse than the Naga, and the Surreal, and the Bog, too. Footsteps sounded from the hall. Even strolling, casual. Tamlin continued cleaning his nails, and in front of me, Lucian assumed a position of appearing to be looking out the window. The footsteps grew louder. The scuff of boots on marble tiles. And then he appeared. No mask. He, like the Ator, belonged to something else. Someone else. And worse, I'd met him before. He'd saved me from those 3 fairies on Fire Night. Oh, sorry guys, my nose is very, very itchy. Okay, here we are again, trying to remind myself where we are. Okay. Not there, we're not there. There we go. And then he appeared. No mask. He, like the Ator, belonged to something else. Someone else. And worse, I'd met him before. He'd saved me from those fairies on Fire Night. With steps that were too graceful, too feline, he approached the dining table and stopped a few yards from the High Lord. Oh, it's that sexy fairy shit. He was exactly as I remembered him, with his fine, rich clothing, cloaked in tendrils of night, an ebony tunic brocaded with gold and silver, dark pants, and black boots that went to his knees. Oh, he's wearing, like, high boots. Oh, thank you, Katrusha. You're getting on top of it, so it's Rissand. Okay. I never dared to paint him, and now knew I would never have the nerve to.
High Lord,
the stranger crooned, inclining his head slightly, not a bow. Tamlin remained seated, with his back to me. I couldn't see his face, but Tamlin's voice was laced with the promise of violence as he said,
"What do you want, Rhysand?"
Rhysand smiled, heartbreaking in its beauty, and put a hand on his chest.
"Rhysand? Come now, Tamlin. I don't see you for 49 years, and you start calling me Rhysand? Only my prisoners and my enemies call me that."
His grin widened as he finished, and something in his countenance turned feral and deadly, more so than I'd ever seen Tamlin look. Rhysand turned, and I held my breath as he ran an eye over Lucian.
"A fox mask. Appropriate for you, Lucian."
"Go to hell, Rhys." Rhys? I'm gonna go with Rhys.
"Go to hell, Rhys,"
Lucian snapped.
"Always a pleasure dealing with the rabble,"
Rhysand said. And faced Tamlin again. I still didn't breathe.
"I hope I wasn't interrupting."
We were in the middle of lunch. "We were in the middle of lunch," Tamlin said, his voice void of the warmth to which I'd become accustomed. The voice of the High Lord. It turned my insides cold.
"Stimulating,"
Rhysand purred.
"What are you doing here, Rhys?"
Tamlin demanded, still in his seat.
"I wanted to check up on you. I wanted to see how you were faring. If you got my little present."
"Your present was unnecessary."
"But a nice reminder of the fun days, wasn't it?"
Rhysand clicked his tongue and surveyed the room.
"Almost half a century holed up in a country estate. I don't know how you managed it, but,"
he said, facing Tamlin again,
"you're such a stubborn bastard that this might have seemed like a paradise compared to Under the Mountain. I suppose it is. I'm surprised, though. 49 years and no attempts to save yourself or your lands, even now that things are getting interesting again."
"There's nothing to be done," conceded Tamlin, his voice low. Rhysand approached Tamlin, each movement smooth as silk. His voice dropped into a whisper, an erotic caress of sound that brought heat to my cheeks. Ooh.
"What a pity that you must endure the brunt of it, Tamlin. And an even greater pity that you're so resigned to your fate. You might be stubborn, but this is pathetic. How different the High Lord is from the brutal warband leader of centuries ago."
Lucian interrupted.
"What do you know about anything? You're just Amarantha's whore."
"Oh. So we now have a name for, I'm assuming, the she we keep referring to. And her name is Amarantha." Sorry to, as Henry referred to her on this week's last podcast, that Amaranth woman.
"Her whore I might be, but not without my reasons."
I flinched as his voice whetted itself into an edge. Also, I don't like that word, and I will address the fact that I don't like that word.
"At least I haven't bided my time among the hedges and flowers while the world has gone to hell."
Lucian's sword rose slightly.
"If you think that's all I've been doing, you'll soon learn otherwise."
fucking nose.
Little Lucian, you certainly gave them something to talk about when you switched to spring. Such a sad thing to see your lovely mother in perpetual mourning over losing you.
Yeah, I'm not surprised it'll be part of the trigger warning when it comes up. Yeah. Lucian pointed his sword at Rhysand.
Watch your filthy mouth.
Rhysand laughed. A lover's laugh, low and soft and intimate.
Is that any way to speak to a High Lord of Prythian?
My heart stopped dead. That was why those fairies had run off on Fire Night. To cross him would have been suicide. And from the way darkness seemed to ripple from him, from those violet eyes that burned like stars.
Come now, Tamlin,
Rhysand said.
Shouldn't you reprimand your lackey for speaking to me like that?
I don't enforce rank in my court, Tamlin said.
Still,
Rhysand crossed his arms.
But it's so entertaining when they grovel. I suppose your father never bothered to show you.
This isn't the Night Court.
Oh, this isn't the Night Court, Lucian hissed. And you have no power here, so clear out. Amarantha's bed is growing cold.
I tried not to breathe too loudly. Rhysand, he'd been the one to send that head. As a gift. I flinched. Was the Night Court where this woman, this Amarantha, was located too? Rhysand snickered. But then he was upon Lucian, too fast for me to follow with my human eyes, growling in his face. Lucian pressed me into the wall with his back, hard enough that I stifled a cry as I was squished against the wood. Ouch.
I was slaughtering on the battlefield before you were even born,
Rhysand snarled. Then, as quickly as he had come, he withdrew, casual and careless. No, I would never dare to paint that dark, immortal grace. Not in 100 years.
Besides,
he said, stuffing his hands into his pockets,
who do you think taught your beloved Tamlin the finer aspects of swords and females? You can't truly believe he learned everything in his father's little war camps.
Tamlin rubbed his temples. Save it for another time, Rhys. You'll see me soon enough. Rhysand meandered toward the door.
She's already preparing for you.
Given your current state, I think I can safely report that you've already been broken and will reconsider her offer. Lucian's breath hitched as Rhysand passed the table. The High Lord of the Night Court ran a finger along the back of my chair, a casual gesture. I'm looking forward to seeing your face when you... Rhysand studied the table. Lucian went stick straight, pressing me harder against the wall. The table was still set for 3. My half-eaten plate of food sitting right before him. Where's your guest? Rhysand asked, lifting my goblet and sniffing it before setting it down. I sent them off when I sensed your arrival, Tamlin lied coolly. Rhysand now faced the High Lord, and his perfect face was void of emotion before his brows rose. A flicker of excitement, perhaps even disbelief, flashed across his features. But he whipped his head to Lucian, magic seared my nostrils, and I stared at Rhysand in undiluted terror as his face contorted with rage. You dare glamour me? He growled, his violet eyes burning as they bore into my own. Lucian just pressed me harder into the wall. Tamlin's chair groaned as it was shoved back. He rose, claws at the ready, deadlier than any of the knives strapped to him. Rhysand's face became a mask of calm fury as he stared and stared at me.
I remember you, he purred. It seems like you ignored my warning to stay out of trouble. He turned to Tamlin. Who, pray tell, is your guest? Oh no. He's about to say something, I don't know. My betrothed, Lucian answered. Oh, here I was thinking you still mourned your commoner lover after all these centuries. Oh, that was Lucian who said that, and he was just doing it to cover up. I'm a dummy. Never mind, I thought it was more meaningful. Doesn't matter anymore. Oh, here I was thinking you still mourned your commoner lover after all these centuries, Razan said, stalking toward me. The sunlight didn't gleam on the metallic threads of his tunic, as if it bulked from the darkness pulsing from him. Lucian spat at Razan's feet and shoved his sword between us. Razan's venom-coated smile grew. You draw blood from me, Lucian, and you'll learn how quickly Amarantha's whore can make the entire Autumn court bleed, especially its darling lady. The color leached from Lucian's face, but he held his ground. It was Tamlin who answered. Put your sword down, Lucian. Razan ran an eye over me. I knew you liked to stoop low with your lovers, Lucian, but I never thought you'd actually dabble with mortal trash. My face burned. Lucian was trembling. With rage or fear or sorrow, I couldn't tell. The lady of the Autumn Court will be grieved indeed when she hears of her youngest son. If I were you, I'd keep your new pet well away from your father. Leave, Rhys, Tamlin commanded, standing a few feet behind the High Lord of the Night Court. And yet he didn't make a move to attack. Despite the claws, despite Razan still approaching me. Perhaps a battle between the two High Lords could tear this manor to its foundations and leave only dust in its wake. Or perhaps if Razan was indeed this woman's lover, the retaliation from hurting him would be too great, especially with the added burden of facing the Blight. Razan brushed Lucian aside as if he were a curtain. There was nothing between us now, and the air was sharp and cold, but Tamlin remained where he was. And Lucian didn't so much as blink as Razan was, with horrific gentleness, pried the knife from my... I'm losing my place. Bye, so see you tomorrow. There was nothing between us now, and the air was sharp and cold, but Tamlin remained where he was, and Lucian didn't so much as blink as Razan, with horrific gentleness, pried the knife from my hands and sent it scattering across the room. That won't do you any good anyway, Razan said to me. If you were wise, you would be screaming and running from this place, from these people. It's a wonder that you're still here, actually. My confusion must have been written across my face, for Razan laughed loudly. Oh, she doesn't know, does she? I trembled, unable to find words or courage. You have seconds, Rhys, Tamlin warned. Seconds to get out. If I were you, I wouldn't speak to me like that. Against my volition, my body straightened, every muscle going taut, my bones straight. Magic, but deeper than that. Power that seized everything inside me and took control. Even my blood flowed where you willed it. I couldn't move. An invisible, talon-tipped hand scraped against my mind, and I knew one push, one swipe from these metal claws, and who I was would cease to exist. Let her go, Tamlin said, bristling, but didn't advance forward. A kind of panic had entered his eyes, and he glanced from me to Razan. Enough! I'd forgotten that human minds are as easy to shatter as eggshells, Razan said, and ran a finger across the base of my throat. I shuddered, my eyes burning. Look at how delightful she is. Look how she's trying not to cry out in terror. It would be quick, I promise. Had I retained any semblance of control over my body, I might have vomited. She's the most delicious thoughts about you, Tamlin, he said. she wondered about the feeling of your fingers on her thighs. Between them, too. He chuckled, even as he said my most private thoughts, even as I burned with outrage and shame. I trembled at the grip still in my mind. Razan turned to the High Lord. I'm curious. Why did she wonder if it would feel good to have you bite her breast the way you bit her neck?
Whoa.
Let her go.
Tamlin's face was twisted with such feral rage that it struck a different, deeper chord of terror in me.
If it's any consolation, Razan confided in him, she would have been the one for you, and you might have gotten away with it. A bit late, though. She's more stubborn than you are. Those invisible claws lazily caressed my mind again, then vanished. I sank to the floor, curling over my knees as I reeled in everything that I was, as I tried to keep from sobbing, from screaming, from emptying my stomach onto the floor. Amarantha will enjoy breaking her, Razan observed to Tamlin, almost as much as she'll enjoy watching you as she shatters her bit by bit. Tamlin was frozen, his arms, his claws, hanging limply at his side. I'd never seen him look like that. Please, was all Tamlin said. Please what? Razan said, gently coaxingly, like a lover. Don't tell Amarantha about her, Tamlin said, his voice strained. And why not? As her whore, he said, with a glance tossed to Lucian's direction. I should tell her everything. Please, Tamlin managed, as if it were difficult to breathe. Razan pointed at the ground, and his smile became vicious. Beg, and I'll consider not telling Amarantha. Tamlin dropped to his knees and bowed his head. Lower. Tamlin pressed his forehead to the floor, his hand sliding along the floor towards Razan's boots. I could have wept with rage at the sight of Tamlin being forced to bow to someone, at the sight of my High Lord being put so low. Razan pointed at Lucian. You too, fox boy. Lucian's face was dark, but he lowered himself to his knees, then touched his head to the ground. I wished for the knife Razan had chucked away, for anything with which to kill him. I stopped shaking long enough to hear Reese speak again. Sorry guys, just need a second here. Are you doing this for your sake or for hers? He pondered, then shrugged, as if he weren't forcing a High Lord of Prithian to grovel. You're far too desperate, Tamlin. It's off-putting. Becoming High Lord made you so boring. Are you going to tell Amarantha? Tamlin said, keeping his face on the floor. Razan smirked. Perhaps I tell her, perhaps I won't. In a flash of motion too fast for me to detect, Tamlin was on his feet, fangs dangerously close to Razan's face. None of that, Razan said, clicking his tongue and lightly shoving Tamlin away with a single hand. Not with a lady present. His eyes shifted to my face. What's your name, love? Giving him my name, and my family name, would lead only to more pain and suffering. He might very well find my family and drag them into Prithian to torment, just to amuse himself. But he'd steal my name from my mind if I hesitated for too long. Keeping my mind blank and calm, I blurted the first name that came to mind, a village friend of my sister's,
whom I'd never spoken to and whose face I couldn't recall. Claire Bador. My face was nothing more than a gasp. Razan turned back to Tamlin, unfazed by the High Lord's proximity. Well, this was entertaining. The most fun I've had in ages, actually. I'm looking forward to seeing you three under the mountain. I'll give Amarantha your regards. Then Razan vanished into nothing, as if he'd stepped through a rip in the world, leaving us alone in horrible, trembling silence. Whew. All right, that's the end of chapter 26, and I think I am done for the day. That was a lot. All right. So, we will start with, oh, it's gonna get smutty in the next chapter? Okay, so then it's good to hold out. We will wait. On Wednesday, we'll get crazy. That'll be fun. So we're gonna get into some smutty stuff on Wednesday. Yay! And then, yay, but also, it's hard for me to read it. You know that. And I will see you tomorrow, for pasty making on Oh No, It's Jackie. It'll be fun. And obviously, if you guys have any questions ahead of that, you can message me on the Discord. You can send me a whisper here. You can get at me however you want to get at me. And I will happily help you out. So just let me know. And I'll see you tomorrow. Yay! Yes, I gotta go take some allergy meds for this damn nose. Okay, bye.